Gary and Marina celebrated their wedding Saturday. It was a wonderful affair, one which reflected many of the things I liked most about Ukraine. Marina moved in with us about 2.5 years ago. At that time, she was the president of the Art Talkers Toastmasters Club. I was surprised that Oksana invited her. Marina is a beautiful woman. Most wives would be reluctant to have that sort of temptation around their husbands. I said so at the time, but Oksana told me she wasn't worried, and she shouldn't have been. Here's a bit of footage of the bride that I took just before the wedding. It is an atypical wedding dress, but Marina is not a conventional woman. Besides which, she looks good in just about anything. Gary is a young Vietnam vet who's been working in London for about 20 years. He showed up at our Toastmasters Club in March 2016. When invited to give a table topic speech, that's a 2-minute impromptu, he absolutely blew us away with an account of dating Linda Carter, later to become Wonder Woman, and the high school days of the singer who later became Alice Cooper. Wanting to get to know this interesting character better, I invited Gary over to dinner. He and Marina hit it off pretty quickly, and they started a long-term acquaintance over Skype. Consequently, we've seen Gary every couple of months for the last couple of years. They got engaged about a year ago and have been planning the wedding and where they were going to live for quite some time. With regard to the latter, there aren't any obvious options. Great Britain is very reluctant to give visas for Ukrainians, even if they are married to citizens, and there isn't much for a foreigner to do here in Ukraine, especially if he doesn't speak the language. Marina's son Bogdan is in China, and that looks like an interesting option. Maybe they'll go there and all be together. The wedding took place at the Civil Registration Office called ZAGS. That's the Zapis Akto Grazdinskovo Sostoyania, or civil registration. The same place that Oksana and I got married, and where we had to register the birth of our 2 children who were born at home. You might call it the equivalent of the Justice of the Peace. However, since everybody in Ukraine gets married at the ZAGS office, the atmosphere is a good deal warmer. They have an aisle to walk down, they play Lohengrin, and they ask the traditional questions about honoring your bride and so on that would be in a traditional ceremony. They talk about children. The woman who officiated in the office was a wise, comfortingly matronly woman who seemed absolutely cut out for the office. She reminded me of the woman who officiated for Oksana and me 8 years ago, who was equally impressive, tall, patrician, and possessed of a great gravitas and warmth, dressed beautifully. They do it right. You come away feeling very married. The wedding party was made up of our family, including the babysitter and her daughter Sonia, and Marina and our friends from Toastmasters, Anna, Miroslava, and Sveta. In the process of registering with the clerk, Marina discovered that she had forgotten her internal passport. This passport is a key document in every European country, none more so than Ukraine. You simply can't do anything without it. As often happens in Ukraine, what looked like a disaster turned out okay. My wife Oksana quickly caught a taxi back to our house to fetch the passport out of Marina's room, and meanwhile the ZAGS people, comfortable that the passport was on its way, allowed the wedding to go on, although without Oksana. Oksana arrived just as it was over, the clerks got all the official business done, and we came home for the reception. The table for the reception had been laid in advance. As always, there was a superabundance of food. for the good. Marina's mother, Efrosina, brought homemade sala, that's the salted uncooked pork, which is the national dish, and a wonderful homemade wine. They live down south in the wine country. The table was laid with enough cold cuts and salads to fully satisfy even the greatest appetite. However, these appetites were followed by 2 whole chickens and some pilaf dishes. Next morning there was the usual lamentation about having too much food. I assured everybody, yes, there was too much food, but you know what? It'll be exactly the same at the next feast. It happens every time. Marina mentioned that she wanted to dance at the reception. I pulled together a collection of danceable music from my computer. It spanned the time frame of Charleston to salsa, starting with some romantic songs from South Pacific and Bing Crosby, and working through rock and roll and some other fast stuff. The romantic music was playing during dinner. Nobody brought a musical instrument, but one way or another music finds its way into any Ukrainian celebration. I'm including some clips here of the harmonizing and traditional melodies that these women pulled off impromptu. It's marvelous in many ways. First of all, they all know the songs, the canon of Ukrainian civilization. They have a tradition of singing in harmony, and they're not uncomfortable joining spontaneously a cappella in parts, alto, soprano, and something in the middle. You have to smile also just looking at the beauty of the faces assembled around our table. I love Ukraine, and this is why. And now I'll be quiet for a while and let you enjoy the beauty for yourselves.
Сонце світить, ніби назавжди цвіте. Далі я цвіту, хай над нею сонце світить, ніби назавжди цвіте. Дай води напитися, ти така хороша, дай хоч подивитися. Ти така хороша, дай хоч подивитися. Так, далі. Наступна. Дивися, буду в садочку, прийди подивися. Буду в садочку, прийди подивися.
We did indeed dance after the singing. The girls asked for salsa music, but what the girls were dancing looked more like rock and roll, so I put on some music from the 50s. Gary and I sang along. We both knew the music and we both knew what to do on the dance floor. Efrosina, who's about my age, shook it up with the best of them. I only wish that there had been a few guys for the rest of the women to dance with. They certainly would have enjoyed it. The party went on until about 10:30. I'd gone upstairs about 15 minutes earlier on the pretext of looking after the baby. Actually, I was ready for bed. When I got up in the morning, I found that everything had been cleaned up. The house was spick and span, as you can see in this video. I'm showing the picture of these dead soldiers, the empty bottles, to emphasize something else I like about Ukraine. The middle bottle, the one with the black label, says Soviet champagne. You would expect champagne made in a Soviet factory not to be that wonderful. You would be wrong. It costs only about $2.50 a bottle, but it tastes delicious. I admired Gary and Marina both for their taste and their frugality. That's a wrap on this wonderful wedding and reception. It's a demonstration of many of the things I like so much about Ukraine. My wonder is that more people don't come to enjoy it. This is Graham signing off again from Kyiv.